Do you ever wonder who you are when no one is watching? When the world stops expecting, when the masks you've carefully worn through the day are set aside, and it's just you, bare, unguarded, unedited. Carl Jung once suggested that the truest parts of us often live in the places we least want to look, in the shadow, in the whispers of our childhood, in the forgotten stories that still guide our every step. The self you show the world may be polished, smiling, successful. But deep inside, another voice stirs, one that has been waiting quietly for you to listen. Have you ever felt that strange tension, the pull between who you think you should be and who you truly are? Maybe it appears when you say yes, when your body aches to say no. Maybe it whispers at night, in the quiet moments before sleep, when an image or memory drifts up uninvited. Or maybe you notice it in your dreams, where your inner world paints messages in symbols, where long-forgotten fears and longings dance just beneath your awareness. This tension is not a mistake. It is your soul asking to be seen. I want to ask you something, not as a test, but as a gentle invitation. Have you ever faced parts of yourself you wished weren't there? A flash of anger you didn't understand, a sadness that seemed too heavy, or a childish need that felt embarrassing to admit. If you feel safe, share your experience in the comments below, because your story, in its rawness, might be the very light someone else needs to find their own way out of the dark. Carl Jung spoke often about the inner child, not as a sentimental image, but as a living presence inside us. This child holds our first experiences of love and rejection, belonging and loss. It carries the joy of wonder, but also the wounds of neglect. When we ignore it, it doesn't disappear. It hides, waits, and then reappears in the most unexpected places, through sudden fears, sabotaged relationships, or the quiet conviction that no matter what we achieve, something is still missing. Healing this inner child is not about indulging weakness. It is about reclaiming strength that has been fragmented, scattered across the years. Think back to your earliest memory. Maybe you're 3 or 4 years old, standing in a room that feels too big. Maybe you're in a classroom, gripping a crayon as if it could protect you. Or perhaps you're outside, laughing under a wide sky, until suddenly the laughter fades because someone shouted or someone left or someone said something you didn't understand. In that instant, a part of you learned, this is who I must be to stay safe. A mask formed, fragile at first, then stronger with each repetition. Jung called it the persona, the mask we wear to be accepted. But behind every persona is a child, still watching, still waiting. We like to think we've grown beyond those moments. We have jobs, responsibilities, adult decisions. But the truth is, the child remains. When you feel small in the face of criticism, when you crave approval so deeply it hurts, when you fear being abandoned or overlooked, those aren't random feelings. They are the echoes of the child, tugging on your sleeve, saying, "See me. Don't leave me behind." To heal is to turn toward this voice, not away from it. Jung believed that healing is less about erasing wounds and more about integrating what has been divided. He called this process individuation, the journey toward wholeness. But individuation does not begin in the lofty heights of philosophy. It begins in the tender soil of your own forgotten experiences. To walk toward wholeness, you must kneel down and hold the hand of your inner child. You must listen when it cries. You must also laugh with it when it remembers how to play. Imagine for a moment that you could sit with your younger self, 5 years old, 7 years old, maybe even younger. What would you say? Would you reassure them that they are loved? Would you tell them that the anger they feel is not dangerous but a signal? That the tears they hide are not weakness but truth? So often, we treat our own inner child with the same impatience we once received from others. Grow up, get over it, stop being so sensitive. And so the child retreats deeper, carrying its gifts and its pain into the shadow. But the shadow does not vanish. It waits, and when life presses us too hard, it emerges, sometimes as depression, sometimes as rage, sometimes as emptiness that no success can fill. Jung's insight was that the shadow is not an enemy. It is a messenger. What you refuse to see in yourself will return, over and over, until you are willing to open the door. Healing the inner child means daring to welcome these unwanted guests. Think about the last time you overreacted to something small. Maybe a friend forgot to reply and you felt abandoned. Maybe someone criticized your work and you felt humiliated. The adult mind tells you, it's not a big deal. But the child inside says, this is just like when I was left alone. Or, this is just like when they laughed at me. That's why the emotion feels so much bigger than the situation. You're not only responding to the present, you're reliving the past. And here's the strange, almost magical truth. When you turn toward that child with compassion instead of judgment, something shifts. Instead of pushing away the feeling, you sit with it, you listen. And in that listening, healing begins. Jung described dreams as one of the doorways to this hidden world. In dreams, your inner child often appears disguised as a lost figure, a small animal, a fragile house in need of care. These are not random images. They are your psyche's way of reminding you what you've tried to forget. Even synchronicity, the mysterious coincidences Jung described, can be part of this healing. Have you ever noticed how certain themes keep appearing in your life, almost as if the world itself is speaking? You keep meeting people who mirror the same lesson. You keep hearing the same phrase in different places. These are not accidents. They are signs that your unconscious is reaching for you, asking you to reconnect with what has been left behind. The work of healing the inner child can seem strange. Talking to yourself, writing letters to your younger self, revisiting painful memories, it may feel unnatural, even foolish. But in that strangeness is power, because what you are really doing is bridging time, uniting the self you are now with the self you once were. And when the two meet, when the adult embraces the child, you are no longer fragmented. You are whole. So tonight, when the noise of the day quiets, take a moment, close your eyes, ask yourself, what does the child within me need right now? Maybe it needs safety. Maybe it needs freedom to cry. Maybe it just wants to play. Whatever it is, let it speak. You may be surprised at how clear the voice is once you finally listen. When you first begin to listen, the voice of that child may be shy, almost inaudible, like a small bird hidden in a thick tree. If you stay, if you breathe and do not force an answer, words gather slowly, images arrive. A hallway. A winter coat too heavy for tiny shoulders. A kitchen table where silence felt larger than the room. These are not random fragments. They are doorways. Jung would say the psyche prefers images, not arguments. It speaks in symbols because symbols can hold more truth than any single sentence. So you sit, and instead of explaining the feeling away, you let the picture deepen until you can feel its temperature, its smell, the way the light fell on the floor. This is the moment the child realizes you are not here to correct them. You are here to accompany them. In everyday life, the child often shows up through the body before the mind notices. Your jaw tightens when someone interrupts you. Your chest caves slightly when plans change at the last minute. You become very polite when you're afraid, or very sarcastic when you feel cornered. None of this is random. The persona steps forward to keep the peace, to keep you acceptable, and the shadow tugs from below, insisting that the truth wants air. Healing begins when you catch that first flicker, the microsecond where you would usually numb, explain, or rush past, and choose just for this moment to remain. You can even whisper inwardly, I see you. You don't have to be alone in this. Here is where my method begins to look a little strange, and I have found very effective. Find an ordinary chair and place it opposite you. Imagine your younger self sitting there, not as a vague idea, but as a presence with posture, weight, and mood. Notice the shoes, the hands, the way the eyes move. Speak aloud, softly if you like. Tell them what you wish someone had told you. If words feel clumsy, pick up a pen with your non-dominant hand and let the child answer on the page. The letters may be messy. Let them be. You are giving form to what has long been formless. This is not pretending. This is active imagination, a practice Jung used to let the unconscious speak in its own language. When you allow the conversation to unfold, something shifts. The emotion that once flooded you begins to become relational, you and the child together, rather than you drowning alone in it. Of course, the adult mind will protest. It will call this silly or dramatic or self-indulgent, but notice which part of you speaks in that tone. Often it is the old inner critic, a guardian who learned long ago that feelings were dangerous. Thank it for trying to keep you safe and ask it to stand aside for a few minutes while you tend to what is tender. Then return to the child and ask simple questions. Where do you feel this in your body? What happened just before you felt this? What do you wish could have happened instead? The answers might arrive as images more than sentences. A teacher who never looked up, a slammed door, a quiet hand resting on your back that never came. Stay with the image until the body softens. The child begins to trust you when you do not rush them past their own pace. Archetypes often appear in this work like friendly constellations you can navigate by. The nurturer arrives as a warm presence, reminding you to offer gentleness without collapsing into pity. The protector steps in when the child worries that setting a boundary will cost love. It shows you how to say no while remaining open-hearted. The trickster might make you laugh in the middle of a heavy memory, loosening the knot just enough to breathe. And somewhere, waiting with patient eyes, an inner wise one sits on the edge of the scene, an old woman knitting, an elder at a kitchen table, a lantern-bearer on a forest path, ready to bless the moment you choose truth over performance. These figures are not fantasies. They are patterns of human strength your psyche already knows, now arriving to help you carry what was too heavy alone. Let this work weave into ordinary moments. You are at a grocery store and the card machine glitches, and suddenly your heart races as if survival depended on it. Instead of mocking yourself, you pause, exhale, feel your feet. Maybe the child remembers the unpredictability of money, the fear of being scolded for small mistakes. You nod inwardly and say, "Of course you're scared." You learned that small errors meant big consequences, but we're here now, together. We can wait 60 seconds. Watch how the intensity lowers when you name the remembered danger and offer present safety. This is reparenting in real time, not a concept, but a minute-by-minute practice. At night, the unconscious often sends a letter in the handwriting of dreams, a house with many rooms, some you've never entered, a broken toy you keep trying to fix, a stray dog that follows you through every street. Amplify the dream rather than decode it too quickly. What is the feeling tone? Where in your life does this tone echo? If the house is your psyche, which room have you avoided, and why? If the toy is your childhood joy, what would it take to repair it? Not to make it perfect, but to make it loved again. If the dog is loyalty, what part of you is begging to be kept, not abandoned at the first inconvenience? Write down a single image upon waking and carry it through the day like a small candle. Let its light fall on your interactions. The connection between the dream and the day becomes a bridge, and the child learns there is a way to meet across time. Another piece that seems odd at first: create a place, a steady inner landscape, where you and the child can meet whenever you need. Perhaps it is a treehouse with soft blankets and a window that looks over water. Perhaps it is a library where every book is a story you once loved. Anchor this place with a simple sensory detail, The sound of rain on the roof, the smell of cinnamon tea, the texture of a worn wooden table. Return there in imagination for a few breaths each morning. The psyche loves ritual. Consistency tells the child, I will keep coming back. Abandonment begins to loosen its grip when presence becomes predictable. Because the work is deep, tenderness must be paired with structure. Choose a brief phrase that calms the nervous system without denying reality. I am safe enough to feel this. Or, this feeling is old, and I am here now. Or, we will go as slowly as the smallest part of me needs. Repeat it not as a spell to erase pain, but as a hand to hold while crossing a busy street. The body responds to rhythm. Over time, the phrase becomes a bell that brings you back from the spiral into the room where care is possible. You may notice how relationships start to change. Where you once demanded that others fill the absence, you now bring a fuller self to the moment. Paradoxically, this makes love cleaner. You can ask for what you need without accusation because you have first listened within. The person across from you is no longer a parent substitute. They are who they are, imperfect and human. And you, no longer a child pleading in disguise, can offer intimacy without bargaining your wholeness for approval. Jung's individuation is not isolation, it is the maturity to be yourself while remaining connected. The more you integrate, the less you require performance from others to feel okay. Synchronicities tend to increase as you honor this work, as if the world nods when an inner knot loosens. A stranger says the one sentence you needed to hear. A song repeats the exact phrase your dream used. You open a book and the page mirrors your morning journal. Whether we call this chance or deep pattern is less important than noticing what it evokes in you, a sense that your path is accompanied. The child inside learns that life can participate in healing. Teachers appear, resources emerge, the right story finds your hands, especially when you are willing to meet life halfway. There will be days when the old gravity returns and you feel like you've made no progress. That is not failure, it is weather. Healing is not a staircase, but a spiral. You will pass familiar landmarks at higher altitudes. The difference is not that it never hurts. The difference is that you know what to do when it does. You pause, you breathe, you find the chair, you enter the treehouse, you speak the phrase, you let the image ripen instead of pushing it away. Slowly, you reclaim the authority that was scattered into 100 strategies for being loved. If you want a simple way to practice in the middle of real life, try this quiet sequence whenever you feel that surge of hurt or panic. Name it. I feel 7 years old right now, small and scared. Place it. In my chest, tight and hot. Care for it. One hand here, one on the belly, 3 slow breaths, and one kind sentence I would say to a child. This is not analysis. It is contact. Once your body knows you will meet yourself this way, it stops bracing for abandonment and starts trusting your return. In time, a new kind of dignity grows. Not the brittle pride of invulnerability, but the soft-spined steadiness of someone who has walked into their own night and found stars. You will still wear a persona in the world. Roles are useful, but it will be a garment, not a disguise. You will still have a shadow. Everyone does. But it will be a conversation partner, not a saboteur. And the child, once exiled, will run ahead of you laughing, pointing out the exact patch of wildflowers you used to love, asking if maybe, before the next meeting or the next errand, you could stop for 5 minutes and just watch the light move across the wall. You begin to notice something simple and liberating. The choice that used to arrive after the storm can appear before it. A message is late, a tone is sharp, a plan changes, and the familiar surge rises. Then space opens. You feel the smallness, name it without shame, and bring the child into the room of now. The adult you and the child you stand side by side. This is what wholeness feels like in practice. Not perfection, but companionship inside experience. Individuation is quieter than it sounds. It's not a grand announcement. It's the way you keep a promise to yourself in small moments. You say no a beat sooner, yes with your whole chest, sorry without collapse. The mask becomes transparent. It protects without hiding. The shadow stops ambushing you because you keep inviting it to speak. The inner child still startles, still longs, but no longer runs the show alone. A steadier rhythm replaces the old scramble for approval. You start organizing your days around what is true rather than what is tolerated. Dreams often confirm the shift. A house once dim now has lights on in rooms you avoided. A broken toy is repaired, not spotless, but loved. The stray dog walks beside you on a leash you both hold. You wake with a feeling of subtle order, as if furniture has been moved back where it always belonged. Synchronicities ripple through ordinary hours, a sentence overheard that answers last night's question, a book falling open to exactly what you needed to remember. Whether or not you look for explanations, you recognize the sensation. Life is meeting you where you're willing to meet yourself. Because the work is living, it benefits from a light structure. Keep it human-sized. 3 minutes is enough. Notice, name, nurture. Notice the first flicker in the body, the jaw, the chest, the stomach, before the story hardens. Name the old age that has come to visit. 5 and worried, 9 and embarrassed, 13 and alone. Nurture with contact and a sentence a kind adult would offer. You're safe enough now. I won't leave. If a boundary is needed, set it in the present tense and in simple language. If repair is needed, choose one action you can complete today. A clarifying text, a 5-minute pause, a glass of water, a walk. Relationships grow less dramatic and more alive. You stop auditioning for love and start practicing it. You ask for what you need early, listen for what the other truly says, and allow differences without making them verdicts. Intimacy becomes spacious. You can come close without disappearing. The child inside learns that tenderness is not a trap and that conflict can be navigated without exile. The adult learns that strength is not performance. It's alignment. There will still be weather. Old seasons return and so will old reflexes. Let this be ordinary. Start again without ceremony. Meet the feeling. Meet the image. Meet the breath. The spiral lifts even when it looks like a circle. What used to take weeks now takes an afternoon. What used to take an afternoon now takes a few mindful minutes. What used to end a day now becomes a doorway into it. Here is a simple practice to anchor this shift tonight. Just before sleep, dim the lights and place a chair opposite you, or picture it if you prefer. Invite your younger self to sit there. Ask one question. What did you need most today that you didn't receive? Wait for a word, an image, a gesture. Thank the child, place a hand on your chest and one on your belly. Take 3 slow breaths and promise one concrete action tomorrow that answers the need. In the morning, write down a single sentence about any dream fragment you remember and choose the smallest step that honors last night's promise. Keep the step embarrassingly small so you can't not do it. Repeat for 7 nights and watch how the tone of your days recalibrates. If you wish, add a brief closing ritual to end difficult moments. Stand, feel your feet, look around the room, name 5 ordinary things you see, and say softly, I am here and I am with you. This tells the nervous system what the mind often forgets. You are not returning to the past alone. You're bringing the present with you. Thank you for sharing this time. If any part of this resonated, tell your story below. Your words may be the mirror someone else needs. For more videos inspired by Carl Jung's healing wisdom, subscribe and explore the other sessions on this channel. Until we meet again, keep the chair nearby, keep the promise small and real, and keep walking together, adult and child, toward a life that fits the size of your whole heart.